Let's talk about careers. What if your career isn't really a ladder you have to climb, but more like a trail you walk to find out what you're truly all about? Today, we're going to deconstruct the journey of Gardner Barrier, a leader whose path is a fantastic roadmap for finding real meaning in your work. And it all kicks off with a pretty unusual mission statement. Okay, so love God, love others, paddle out. That's it. That's Gardner Barrier's personal purpose statement. It's simple, a little unconventional, and you just know it's deeply personal. It makes you wonder, right? How in the world does a person's entire life distill down into those three short phrases? Well, to figure that out, we have to go back and look at the trail he walked. So to really get it, we've got to go back to the beginning. You know, every great journey has a starting point. And for Barrier, his foundation wasn't built on just one thing. It was this really unique mix of experiences that ended up forging all the tools he'd need for the future. Just look at this path. It's anything but a straight line, right? You've got an economics major at Virginia Tech, where he's already co-starting a lab, but then he jumps into a master's in middle grades education while also being enrolled in an econ master's. It's this wild mix of hard data and, people, analytics, and humanity. And this blend, it's going to be a super important theme, so keep it in mind. So, okay, economics, teaching, coaching. On the surface, they don't seem to have a ton in common. You might be wondering, what's the connection here? Well, if you look past the job titles and really focus on what he was actually doing, a really clear pattern just pops right out. The common thread? He's a builder. Simple as that. Look at the evidence. As a student, he doesn't just attend class. He co-founds a lab, something from nothing. As a teacher, he's not just teaching from a textbook. No way. He's writing a Sudoku program with his geometry class and starting chess clubs from scratch. It's this deep fundamental instinct to build things that serve a community. And that builder instinct, it doesn't just stay in the classroom. As Barrier moves up into leadership, he takes that exact same mindset and just blows it up to a much, much larger scale. And we're talking about some serious experience here. 11 years. Think about that. Over a decade as a division director and assistant head of school before he even takes the top job. This was his time in the trenches, figuring out how to lead, how to shape a culture. It was basically his training ground for what was coming next. And this is where you really see that builder DNA shine. A typical school might, just focus on the standard curriculum. Gardner, he brings in an architect in residence to totally rethink the physical campus. A standard school has a wellness program. He launches a whole center for intentional living. A normal civics class? Nope. He creates a civil discourse class with a university. See the difference? He's not just making small tweaks. He's building entirely new things from the ground up. And here it is, straight from the source. I am most alive when imagining possibilities. I thrive on building what doesn't yet exist. I mean, that says it all, doesn't it? This isn't just what he does for a job. It's who he is. It's the engine driving all those innovative projects we just saw. It's that drive to look at an empty space and see what could be. So, after all these years of building and leading inside organizations, his career takes another really fascinating turn. He starts to synthesize everything, all these different threads of experience, to do something new, help other leaders find their own path. And if you look at how he did it, it's so logical. First, he gets that hands-on experience leading a school. Then, he deepens his strategic thinking with an MBA. Smart. Next, he stress tests his ideas by teaching the next generation of leaders. And finally, with all that under his belt, he's ready to launch his own practice to guide others. Each step was a deliberate move, perfectly setting him up for the next one. So, you see? That winding trail he walked, with all its different experiences, was the perfect preparation for him to become a guide. His life's work kind of crystallizes into this one single mission, helping other people and organizations find a clearer trail for themselves. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. What's the big takeaway here for us? When we look back at his whole career, we can actually pull out a really powerful definition of what it actually means to live a life of purpose. Here's his definition, and it's so key. Internal meaning that translates to compelling and sustained external impact. It's a two-part equation. See, it's not enough to just feel good on the inside. That's part one, the internal meaning. Part two is that feeling has to translate into action, into real, tangible, external impact. It's the bridge between what you believe and what you actually do. And that brings us full circle. Remember that phrase we started with? The one that seemed a little mysterious? Well, after walking through his entire career, it's about to make perfect sense. This isn't just a catchy motto. It's an earned philosophy. It's the synthesis of his entire life. Love God and love others. That's the internal meaning we just talked about. That's his why. And paddle out, That's the action. That's the external impact. It's the builder's instinct to get moving, to create what isn't there, to make a real difference. Gardner Barrier's journey shows us that a career doesn't have to be something that just happens to you. It can be a deliberate act of creation, guided by a deep sense of purpose. He found his by building labs and clubs and programs and whole school cultures. His trail is clear. So the question this whole story leaves us with is a pretty powerful one. What will you build?